Hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day market and option recap. Well, it looks like moving. I was going to say moving averages. The major indices just continuing to kind of grind higher. S&P up 17 basis points. The Qs outperformed today. They were up 40 basis points. IWM, real nice comeback for IWM, finishing in the green. I'm just watching Apple move up here after hours. I'm not really sure what that's about, but you could see some, further move to the downside in IWM and kind of held up okay. Needed to, I guess, find that support at the 50-day moving average. If not, we might be looking at a move down to around under 144. But you got a floating hammer bar here on the 50-day moving average, so we'll see if that materializes into maybe that's as far as we go. And it kind of does look like a flag pattern, a little bit further of a flag, I would say, than normal. I would have thought that it would have stopped here, but who knows? We'll see if that holds on the 50-day moving average, and that's the best that you could really do. We were talking about at the end of the day, not making predictions and just kind of letting the trading to me is all about and why I've gotten better over it over the last few years is just making less predictions. I think I don't know if people are self-conscious and they feel like they have to try to make a prediction, but that's all we could basically do is say, hey, here's a level of support. Either it's going to hold or if it doesn't. And that really gets down to whether or not you make money in the market. If you're honoring support and you're saying, okay, so let's say for tomorrow, and I don't know why I chose IWM, it just looks attractive on the chart, but let's say that you take a long position in IWM. We don't really know where it's going to go. You've got a defined level of support. If it breaks, let's say, I mean, where are we now? 147.20. If it breaks this 50-day moving average, which is about $1 down, you get out. That's it. And you have confidence that you'll find another trade. But I think what a lot of people do as traders and beginner traders is, they say, okay, I'll add here. It looks like the 50-day is going to hold. It breaks. And then they're like adding to it and just adding to it because it goes down because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. Again, maybe it holds and it goes higher here, but if it doesn't and it breaks 50, that's then you move on. You look for something else, and you have a small loser. That's the whole name of the game. And I just see it too often where people just they don't want to admit that they're wrong, and that's not how you make money in trading. It doesn't really matter if you're wrong and right. It matters on if your trading system is wrong or right, not any individual pick. So I always say I have more confidence in my whole trading system than I do in any individual pick. But that's basically how it works. For making money in this market, and I just see a lot of people don't want to do that. One other concept that I'll just brush upon because it was, I think, lighter activity today in option, but people look at the SPY volume, and I see this a lot on the financial media. And yeah, I mean, it's low volume in the SPY, but don't you think it kind of should be? There's really nothing going on. I mean, and if you're long SPY and you're sticking with the trend, great for you, because this thing has just been above the 5 period moving average, slight dip here. But the the trend is your friend, obviously. But people have been like, geez, why is the volume so bad in SPY? I think there's no volatility, so nobody's trading it. It's become a very boring index, not a boring product, but a boring index. There's just a lot more things. So yeah, I agree. There's not a lot of volume here, and that's typically how it works. You see a lot of volume on turns in the market. Not when you're in an uptrend, you just don't see a lot of volume going through that uptrend, right? Because the way institutions trade is they add little by little, and then they get out when there's a big market turn. Then everybody panics. That's where you see the high volume. But if you want to see big volume, you just have to look in the right products. Like lit is one. You could see. I mean, look at the volume in this product, and we'll kind of show you on Bloomberg because it might might make a little bit more sense. But here's where the volume is, folks. Bots. This is crazy. Grabbing and accumulating, getting into an area like you haven't seen before. Look at REMX. This is the rare earths ETF. Look at the volume here. So if you're looking at and I can go on with different ETFs that are showing, that are breaking out like this on really strong volume. But if you're looking at the S&P like SPY and you're like, yeah, there's no volume in this market. That's because there's no there's no volatility. There's nothing going on. So, again, I don't really understand, but I see it over and over. Yeah, I just don't get why there's no volume in the market. There's no volume in SPY. There's no volume in the S&P because there's nothing going on there, folks. So, you know, XOP is another area that is starting to pick up a little bit. Not crazy volume. I think OIH maybe as well, and some of these energy names. Look at the volume start to pick up here on this turn. So you want to look at sectors. You want to obviously look at individual stocks. But man, oh man, I just don't get why some people are so fixated on things. Another thing that I see is like, oh, that this particular index there was 25 new lows in this. Well, yeah, it's a stock pickers market. There's a lot of names. So let me go through a couple. This is just like head scratching, like mind boggling things. Everybody thinks it's like a signal that some stocks are making new lows. There's a lot of weak companies out there. So what I saw today was, speaking of something really interesting, IGV. Again, not this one actually does not have a lot of volume. A lot of people this is a proxy for me. This is tech and software. Just really interesting what's been going on in this space all year long. This is interesting to me. Sorry, not IGM, IGV. Because first of all, look at the performance in this. It's up 42% year to date, and look at today's movers, which you could do on any particular day. But obviously, Take Two's up there. But look at all these other names like Splunk, which is a name I've been long. ATVI, I actually missed this today. We had talked about it pre-market, but I didn't trade it. Up almost 6% on the day. Salesforce should be in here as well. So a lot of these names, Workday's in here. So this is to me where it's interesting, in this space. One of the spaces. I don't own every name in here, but Red Hat is another name. ServiceNow, which has been seeing some call activity the last couple days. This is to me where it's at. Not the S&P that's up 15 basis points on a day-to-day basis, which again is great if you're sitting long the S&P because it's grinding up. But if you're trying to trade something, um, it's more of a buy and hold. The home builders were up again today, so they've actually, I think, you have 1 day of volatility in the home builders about the tax plan credit, and since then they've been recovering that. And again, look at the volume here in the home building ETF. I mean, this thing is crazy, $34 to $39 in a couple months. Really, really strong. And then it was a little bit in the morning. We saw a lot of the defensive areas of the market. XLP looks like it held the gains. XLP actually got into value. So big downtrend, but nice big bullish engulfing candle. Didn't really see a lot of. I was actually looking for this today. Was looking for call activity within this group. In either Procter or what's the other name that I'm thinking of? CL, Colgate, General Mills. I was looking for call activity. I just didn't see it for me to maybe take a swing at something in this group. The KWeb Chinese Internet Group was also did pretty well today. I think JD.com had a nice day today. It looks like gave back some of those gains at the end of the day, but still strong performance. The KWeb ETF just continues to kind of grind higher since it reclaimed some levels here, moving to the top of value. What else was strong today? Big cap retail was strong today. So those are some groups. And then on the downside, really kind of weird today was oil. We did see a lot of call buying on the dip today. We had oil inventories out that showed a build in oil. And then, so this was the reaction on the oil inventory numbers, a big move down, and then all of a sudden they took off. Oil took off to the upside, and then went down just as fast as it went up. So I'm not really sure. I guess pretty decent volume in oil. And I actually added to some things today. XOP, which was a big winner, I added that right in here. I didn't catch the lows. I did this before the oil inventory numbers came out. I was lucky enough to hit a target at the bottom of value, but still holding a position further out in XOP calls. We did see some, on that dip today. We saw a nice call buyer in Oxy. So Oxy did finish down, but right on the lows of the day is where we saw the Oxy calls. Well, I like this chart. That's why I added this trade today. It may come back in a little bit and retest, but let's hope it holds the short-term moving averages for now. RRC, they call buyers love this name. They've been buying this for the last week almost every day, and on the dip. Again, this one's more in a downtrend, so I would say a trickier name, considering it's way below the 200-day moving average. That's why I like Oxy better. And then there was a whole slew of other energy call buyers. FTI, which is another energy name. PSX. Talk about a chart and an energy name in a nice uptrend. Take a look at this PSX. Probably one of the strongest energy charts out there, I would say. Um, Trying to break out. So what else? I mentioned Splunk. This is a position I've been holding on to for a while, and nice big day today, up 4.6%. Outside of this, maybe going headed towards this VPOC. It's been kind of a tough back and forth name over the last few months, but is grinding higher, especially with today's candle. And then where it gets frustrating is you look over at biotech. So again, why the S&P is only up 17 basis points, because you have biotech as well, which is not doing well the last 3 days. 3 days of straight red candles, down 1.1%. So same thing with the banks. They finished lower as well. So again, you've got good names, and going back to what I was saying about names making new lows, of course you're going to have names making new lows. You've got not a lot, but you've got some sectors like telecom that have completely broken down. So these telecom names are in Nasdaq. They're in different indices. They're making 52-week lows. Just don't own them. Um, you know, don't own names, or if you want to short them, go ahead, have a ball, short them. But this is pretty easy stuff. Just don't go long names that are in downtrends. So sorry to kind of break it out to be more of simple, but it's just avoid names that are in downtrends. Do not go. That's kind of the name of the game. BKD. This was another interesting one. This is a name I think on earnings that got beaten up fairly badly, but they bought calls at around $8 this morning. Stock flew up. Just a couple other names, and we'll wrap it up. At more call buying in Apple again. I mentioned JD.com, which has been seeing some further out call buying the last couple days. Then a lot of earnings flow that you kind of have to skip around. TTM, I actually took this trade and because it wasn't, I didn't know when it was reporting earnings, but apparently Tata Motors is reporting tomorrow, so I had to take the trade off because that's not why I wanted to go into the trade. But it's sitting above, right around the 200-day moving average, so that's what kind of interests me. I just didn't know that it reported earnings tomorrow, but they went in and swept some calls, so it'll be fun to watch. Big block, 8,400 of these. I don't know why they chose the weekly November 24th, but that's a what $856,000 trade. So pretty interesting trade that goes up before earnings. Generally, like I mentioned in yesterday's call, I don't really like order flow the day of earnings, which is why I took the trade off. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But yeah, so I stuck to my principles, and once I figured out that they report tomorrow, I decided to take the trade off. So watch it goes up big tomorrow. Speaking of flow, interesting what this Roku call buyer did right before, 10 cents, excuse me, 10 seconds before the close, and they bought some calls. So that's the kind of stuff that usually works. When somebody does something like that, when they buy aggressively 10 seconds before the earnings report, uh, that often will work. But the stuff that they buy earlier in the day very rarely works. But you could see 10 seconds. They probably knew something right before that report went out to buy 10 seconds before the close. They bought this week's 22 and a half calls. Should be marking, yeah, probably will have a nice gain. 22 and a half is here. If it, they could of course hedge themselves after the close, because that would have an intrinsic value of about $1.50 on something they bought for 35 cents. All right, so that's today's video. Have a great night. See you guys tomorrow.